President Trump's legal team petitioned the Supreme Court Tuesday to block a lower court's order for him to release his financial records in a New York criminal probe. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance had issued a subpoena for the president's personal financial records to his accounting firm Mazars USA to probe his family business dealings, and a lower court had upheld the subpoena. The subpoena sought 8 years of the president's tax returns. President Trump broke with tradition by not releasing his tax returns when running for president in 2016 and has continued to keep them under wraps, citing an ongoing IRS audit. The Supreme Court previously weighed in on the issue in June, directing how the president could dispute the subpoena in the lower courts but permitting the subpoena battle to continue. The president argued in court papers the subpoena is overbroad and was issued in bad faith. The subpoena was similar to a congressional subpoena the Supreme Court batted away from House Democrats in June. Mr. Trump's petition read, "There is concern that this subpoena, which makes sweeping demands and is copied from Congress, crosses the line, even were it aimed at some other citizen, instead of the president." The petition argues the Second United States Circuit Court of Appeals gave Mr. Cyrus the benefit of the doubt and made the president shoulder the heavy burden of negating every speculative inference that might conceivably justify issuing a broad subpoena copied from Congress. President Trump is asking the justices to halt the lower court's order, preventing his accounting firm from handing over the financial records. His legal team plans to file an appeal, seeking the High Court's review of the Second Circuit's decision issued last week. The 3-judge appeals court panel was unanimous. The Second Circuit panel wrote in its 35-page opinion, "Grand juries routinely issue multiple subpoenas seeking different information from different recipients during the course of their investigations, because, after all, they have a duty to follow every available clue, wherever it may lead." The circuit decision was handed down by Judges Pierre Laval, a Clinton appointee, Robert Katzman, a Clinton appointee, and Raymond Loehr, an Obama appointee. The matter likely won't be resolved before the November 3 presidential election. Supreme Court nominee Judge Amy Coney Barrett defended the original meaning of the Second Amendment during her Supreme Court confirmation hearing Tuesday. She was asked about a dissent that she wrote in the case Conter Bar while sitting on the 7th United States Circuit Court of Appeals, where she said a man who was convicted of a nonviolent crime should not lose his Second Amendment rights. She said, referencing the mentally ill or others with violent records, "The original meaning of the Second Amendment does support the idea that governments are free to keep guns out of the hands of the dangerous." The case she referenced was issued in 2019 and involved a man who was convicted of mail fraud, a nonviolent crime. He had challenged a law preventing him from owning a firearm due to having committed a felony. The 2 other judges on the panel voted to uphold the law, but Judge Barrett did not. Judge Barrett also disclosed her family owns a gun. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden said Friday that voters do not deserve to hear his position on expanding the Supreme Court before the head to the polls next month. Biden responded to a reporter when asked if voters have a right to learn his position on the hot-button issue. "No, they don't." While the former vice president has repeatedly refused to say whether he supports expanding the number of justices on the Supreme Court, his remarks Friday appear to be his most pointed rebuke of voters who care about the issue. KTLV anchor Ross DeMatte said to Biden of the court-packing issue at a campaign stop in Las Vegas, "This is the number one thing that I've been asked about from viewers in the past couple of days." Biden replied, "Well, you've been asked by viewers who are probably Republicans who don't want me to continue talking about what they're doing to the court right now." Then the reporter began to ask, "Sir, don't the voters deserve to know where you stand?" But Biden began, before trailing off, "No, they don't deserve," he said of President Trump. "I'm not going to play his game." Biden has accused Trump of using the court-packing question to distract from the Republican effort to vote on Amy Coney Barrett as a Supreme Court justice before the election. But liberals in the Democratic Party have led the push to pack the court. Groups like Demand Justice, which was founded by a former press secretary for Hillary Clinton and Senator Chuck Schumer, began calling for Supreme Court expansion during the Democratic primaries. Biden asserted that Trump and Republicans have broken new ground by holding a vote on a Supreme Court justice just before the election. Biden claimed, "He's about to make a pick in the middle of an election. First time it's ever been done." Trump has defended the decision to vote on Barrett's confirmation, noting that he has the constitutional authority to nominate a justice during his presidential term. The nation has recognized Columbus Day by official proclamation since 1934, and President Trump continued that tradition by issuing his own proclamation which praises both Christopher Columbus and Americans with Italian heritage. But President Trump has taken his statement further. Mr. Trump said in his official proclamation, "For our beautiful Italian-American communities, and Americans of every background, Columbus remains a legendary figure." Sadly, in recent years, radical activists have sought to undermine Christopher Columbus's legacy. These extremists seek to replace discussion of his vast contributions with talk of failings, his discoveries with atrocities, and his achievements with transgressions. Rather than learn from our history, this radical ideology and its adherents seek to revise it, deprive it of any splendor, and mark it as inherently sinister, also the president said. They seek to squash any dissent from their orthodoxy. We must not give in to these tactics or consent to such a bleak view of our history. We must teach future generations about our storied heritage, starting with the protection of monuments to our intrepid heroes like Columbus. He also noted a recent executive order that ensures that any person or group destroying or vandalizing a federal monument, memorial, or statue is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. President Trump also cited another executive order which created the National Garden of American Heroes to be devoted to heroic statuary, plus the just-launched 1776 Commission, which encourages educators to emphasize the miracle of American history and honor our founding. President Trump went a step further in his proclamation. The president said, "In addition, last month I signed an executive order to root out the teaching of racially divisive concepts from the federal workplace, many of which are grounded in the same type of revisionist history that is trying to erase Christopher Columbus from our national heritage. Together, we must safeguard our history and stop this new wave of iconoclasm by standing against those who spread hate and division. On this Columbus Day, we embrace the same optimism that led Christopher Columbus to discover the New World. We inherit that optimism, along with the legacy of American heroes who blazed the trails, settled a continent, tamed the wilderness, and built the single greatest nation the world has ever seen."